It's genuinely surprising when you take a look at almost all of the most beloved foods in the world and realize that they're fermented. Coffee beans and cacao are fermented from the moment that they're harvested until they're dried and roasted. Cheese is fermented milk. Of course, any alcoholic beverage needs to be fermented in order to have alcohol. And that alcohol, once generated by yeasts that convert sugars into ethanol, can then be further fermented by acetic acid bacteria that converts alcohol into vinegar. Tea, bread, soy sauce, vanilla extract, olives, traditional deli meats, even Tabasco hot sauce, all of these wonderful foods are fermented in one way or another at some point in their creation. But I want to showcase a couple different ferments that will provide an easy entry point into our gardening practice, because all of these you can do at home once you learn the process of fermentation, and it really unlocks a world of potential in the garden. There are two main categories of fermentation that I'm going to cover here: aerobic and anaerobic. Starting with our anaerobic ferments, we have things like sauerkraut, lacto-fermented veggies, and lacto-fermented hot sauce. Now, these are painfully easy to make. Salt is added to cabbage, moisture gets drawn out through the cabbage through osmotic pressure, and the resulting salty brine is what the cabbage is submerged in while it undergoes its fermentation journey to becoming sauerkraut. The salty environment creates the conditions that keep pathogenic molds from growing and keeps lactic acid bacteria cultures thriving. And these cultures culture the cabbage, softening the tissues and processing various compounds. And this process of fermentation has been used for thousands of years as a means of preserving cabbage. Once those bacterial cultures have established, it's hard for them to become compromised, which is what makes lacto-fermented foods so approachable and easy to make. For foods like peppers and radishes that I've got here, a saltwater brine is used to perform the same exact function as what happens with sauerkraut. And again, through the process of fermentation, the nutritional and flavor components of the food changes. These are what we call anaerobic ferments. First, let's take a look at some of our aerobic ferments. This one looks and acts similar to our lacto-fermented veggies, but it doesn't use salt and instead uses sugar to feed wild yeasts. This beverage is called tepache, and it's a traditional pre-Hispanic beverage made out of pineapple skins and spices. And in this case, natural yeasts and lactic acid bacteria found on the rind of the pineapple work together to consume sugar and water over a 3 to 5 day span. And as this happens, the Saccharomyces yeasts and heterofermentative lactic acid bacteria are going to work on the materials, feeding on the sugar and off-gassing carbon dioxide. And you can see bubbles in and on the surface of this batch of brewing tepache, but it really becomes obvious when you seal it up and let it continue to ferment anaerobically, because then when you pop the bottle, you can see the foam build up right away.